Welcome to the Shortwave radio channel, and this is the review of the Sangean ATS-405 AM FM shortwave portable receiver. And so this is a gift by a local fan of my channel. And of course, it's a beautiful looking radio. It is nice. The display is really great. I love the display. It's clear, and it's really nice to see this. It is one of the 2 or 3 Sangean receivers that's still offered with shortwave on it. I believe the ATS, there's something, actually it's 2. There's the ATS-405. The ATS-505 has been discontinued, I believe. And of course the flagship ATS-909X2 that I've reviewed here on my channel. So I've actually tuned a lot with it, and you guys know pretty much my opinion. So how does the ATS-405 work, and how well does it compare to other radios that are available on the market? So like I said, first of all, beautiful little looking radio. One of the cool things that a lot of people would probably appeal to with today's receivers is the fact that it uses standard AA batteries. So here I have AA Amazon Basics rechargeable NIMH batteries that can be charged in the radio as long as you slide the charge button to on. And of course, it is it doesn't have long wave. It has AM, medium wave, FM, no RDS, and shortwave in a 2.3 to 26.1 megahertz range, which is the range for all the international broadcast bands. And the reason this is like this, well, it doesn't have single sideband, so they probably thought, well, it doesn't matter if we don't add to shortwave, extended shortwave bands, since there's no single sideband capability. Keypad entry, of course, up-down buttons for going through the bands. There's no tuning knob, so you're not going to tune the bands with the tuning knob, but you have the up-down buttons that have a slight soft mute. It is not as bad as other radios. Some radios have a soft mute that's really worse than this one, but it does have soft mute. It can scan on stations, but will stop in the next station. Like I said, it is AM only, so most of what you're going to do is listen to international broadcast bands, a little bit of AM radio operations that are in AM or pirate activity, but it doesn't have any gaps, so you can tune in between the international broadcast bands. So it's really a continuous tune from 2,300 kilohertz all the way up to 26,100. Now, it has, of course, the standard features, memories and alarm and so on. But what is interesting about the Sangean here is it is DSP based. So it does have a few bandwidths that you can tune. So when you press a bandwidth button in AM mode, it will give you access to 3 different bandwidths. And they are not the best chosen bandwidths, honestly. The wide is fine, but the middle position should be maybe a little larger than this. They could maybe have had 4 or 5 instead of just 3, but it helps. I mean, in standard listening, you will, of course, have, especially in a crowded band, the capability of, eliminating the adjacent interference with these bandwidths. The audio, you have to play a little bit, because the audio with the bandwidths means that when you use a smaller bandwidth, there's less frequency response. But there's also a button here on the right side, which is news, normal, and music, which also plays with the frequency response. So in a narrower mode, you might want to use a different audio filter if you want. The receiver has, like I said, a beautiful display, has a clock with seconds. frequency is really nice, and the operations are pretty cool. This radio has many little features that you won't see in other receivers in general, but everything is really electronics. The local DX switch is really an electronic switch here, not a standard slider, if you want, for like we see elsewhere. This radio, of course, is capable of receiving signals on shortwave in a manner that is a little I like performance is not as good, I would say, as other radios. I've used the telescopic antenna a lot, and it does not have an antenna output or an antenna jack, so you can't have an external antenna unless you clip it to the telescopic. Signals are weaker than most radios. Actually, you guys have seen one very simple demonstration that I put up with the CountyCom GP7 SSB that I was tuning and testing out at the same time, and everybody noticed that the CountyCom had the signal strongest. This is a flaw of this Sangean. It seems to have the flaw of the ATS-909, 909X, where on telescopic it's kind of deaf. So that's the sad part of the Sangean 405. It still receives a lot of signals, but it's not as good. And because it's DSP based, when signals can kind of get weak, they kind of fade out in a very drastic way. It's not like an analog radio where the fade out is very smooth. It just like fades out and disappears suddenly. So, probably not a DX machine, but it will do and receive most broadcasts that you want to listen to for the standard broadcast on shortwave. Where it does shine, though, is on Mediumwave. Mediumwave on this radio is actually really good. And in my tests, it seems to be even better than a lot of radios that I've tested with Mediumwave. And of course, you've all seen the video where I tested with the AM200 loop at that, and you've got some kind of, I think, possible DX machine for Mediumwave broadcasts. Of course, you can choose the step of tuning, so it's like 10 kilohertz or 1 kilohertz at a time. All you have to do is choose the different steps that you need. FM is not bad. FM is pretty good, where it will receive the standard stations that I want to test all the time, which in this case is, for example, 107.9. And on 107.9, if I extend the antenna, the VPR station does come in really well.
At a hospital in Lake Success, which is
so that's in my office, and telescopic is not even fully extended. FM seems to be quite good, so this is going to be interesting to see what we can actually check out. Of course, the shortwave meter band, where you can actually choose specific meter bands of the international broadcast bands directly. It's keypad, so you can enter your favorite frequency directly, which is really nice also. And of course the fine-tune button. So if I go up here, you see it's by 5 kilohertz. If I click the fine-tune, now I'm going to up by 1 kilohertz or down by 1 kilohertz. One little thing that annoys me, you've seen the up-down that I just did. They're kind of sluggish, so you can't really go like, it doesn't respond always, even though this looks good. Sometimes it kind of freezes weirdly, and you gotta wait kind of a second or so before it actually continues. There's these little weirdness in there, but overall, that's the thing. One of the things I noticed by ear, because it doesn't have the frequency precision of, it stops at 1 kilohertz. So it's easy to overlook this, but my ear is trained on radios that are off frequency. You can easily hear when a station is off frequency on a radio if you get enough training listening to radio all the time. What I notice is that this radio's frequency seems to be off by roughly 1 kilohertz. Of course, I can't verify the exact frequency offset, but it sounds roughly like 1 kilohertz off, which is weird because today's radios should kind of, this is something I don't understand in 2021 when for so many years we had precise receivers, and suddenly we got a set of modern receivers that are kind of off a little bit. The ATS-405X2 is the perfect example of how it shouldn't even be because it's so expensive for what it is. But anyways, it is slightly off. That said, it's not something that's going to drive you nuts for most of the listening. Most people will not even notice that it's off. If somebody in the comments says, well, mine's not off, trust me, you don't understand what off is and how to listen about the fact that it's off. I detect that it's off. It is off. When you have a trained ear, and I'm sure a lot of you out there will know, I know, I hear when a station is off frequency. And of course, another test that you can do, and that's what I did, is if a station's on, say, on 13720, how many kilohertz is it off on each side? So if you have a perfectly, calibrated radio, it should be, 3 or 4 kilohertz on each side. It should be equal. On this one, I go up 2 kilohertz and then at 3 kilohertz, it's pretty much gone. But when I go down, it'll be at least 4 kilohertz before it starts to disappear. So that also kind of shows me that, it is off a little bit. But like I said, for most people, it won't be noticeable. Where that could be a problem is if you're tuning the exact frequency and the signal isn't very strong because you're off, it might actually make it more difficult to tune a weak signal. But for standard broadcast, you won't notice. It's all right. It, of course, has the audio frequency here with 3 selection, the volume control on the right side. You've got a DC in for a power supply, 7.5 volts, which is kind of weird because it uses 4 AA batteries. Headphone jack with FM stereo. It has, of course, the FM stereo mono switch here on the top. There is a light button here on the top. It stays on if you wish. The problem is every time you touch a button or tune or do something, it will revert to going back off after a few seconds, and you'll have to press it again if you want to keep it on. That's kind of an awkward, weird thing. Comes with, of course, earbuds. Comes with a very nice Sangean power adapter that is very low noise, which is cool. And of course comes with the standard Sangean carrying pouch, which is kind of a vinyl carrying pouch. Overall, it's okay, but it's not super sensitive on shortwave and could be better. So, I'm not impressed, but I have to say I'm kind of impressed on one part, which is Mediumwave. And I've read a lot about this radio on Mediumwave, or a lot of people saying this radio shines. I think it does because it is better actually than the Countycom when I'm on Mediumwave for AM stations. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching.